Welcome to the Artists Studio. In this episode, we meet the father of sound art, Bill Fontana. When we talk about visual art, we expect just that. But what of our other senses? What if a work speaks to us not only through sight, but also through sound? The American composer and artist Bill Fontana has been creating sound art for 45 years. With an international reputation, he travels the world using sound as a sculptural medium. From San Francisco's Golden Gate Bridge to London's Millennium Bridge and the bells of Japanese temples, Bill Fontana's work allows us to interact with and transform our perceptions of visual and architectural spaces. As his latest creations capturing the voices of Abu Dhabi's landscapes are revealed at the Abu Dhabi Festival 2014, we talk to Bill Fontana about his pioneering work.
What did you study at university, and how did your education influence your career?
I was in university in the 60s, late 60s during the Vietnam War, and I started out going to music conservatory in Cleveland Institute of Music as a composition student, and I was also at the same time going to a small Jesuit university as a philosophy major. After a few years of doing this in Cleveland, where some of the ideas I had with music just seemed a bit kind of unconventional for the music conservatory, I discovered that John Cage was teaching a course at the New School for Social Research in New York City called Experimental Music Composition. And so I decided I wanted to leave Cleveland and go to New York and do that.
When was the moment that you decided you were going to work with sound?
Well, I was interested in sound ever since I can remember. I grew up within walking distance to the Cleveland Orchestra, and I had a great love of music for a long time. And I think at first I really wanted to be a composer, kind of classical music composer. And a strange thing started happening to me. I was studying with one of the conductors of the Cleveland Orchestra, and the Cleveland Orchestra is situated adjacent to a very beautiful park and lagoon in front of the Cleveland Museum of Art. And as I was waiting to kind of have my lessons, I would sit in the park and kind of think about what I wanted to do. And I started to just pay attention to the sounds in this garden in a way that they seemed almost as interesting to me as any of the music I could hear in the concert hall. So I started to come to the idea that music for me was like a state of mind. It was a way of kind of perceiving the world, and that was kind of a real turning point for me.
How did the composer, writer, and the artist John Cage become your mentor, and did this relationship shape your career as an artist?
Well, I went to New York City to take this course that he was teaching at the New School college called Experimental Music Composition. And I think he was a very famous composer by then and traveled a lot, and he wasn't always kind of actually teaching the class. There were a lot of other people associated with him that were also doing this. And I think what was really important for me was to be taken seriously, that the idea that that the act of listening was a way of making music, which at a very traditional music conservatory in Cleveland was a really kind of strange idea. To him was perfectly reasonable idea. And I think the excitement I felt that this idea could mean something, that it was an idea that could really be developed, kind of excited me. And I, even though it was probably the most impractical decision I could have made in 1968, to think that this was a career path, I did.
During the creation of Desert Soundings in Abu Dhabi, you mentored a group of students. What was this experience like, and how do you benefit from being a mentor?
I remember very well what it meant to me to have mentors that really took me seriously and kind of enabled me to take myself seriously, and I feel that that's a very important role to play. I've been privileged to spend a lifetime fulfilling my dreams, really, and I feel like one of the most important things that any creative person can learn is to believe in themselves and to follow their inner vision and to realize they have one that's unique to them, and not to be deferred by all the kind of impractical kind of questions or practical questions that may arise, like, is this really worth something? Is my perception really worth something? You know, I think you need someone to kind of take you seriously at a certain point in your life.
You travel all over the world. How important is it to have an appetite for adventure?
It's for what I do, it's really necessary. I mean, I've worked in so many places and with so many different kinds of situations and subjects, and the older I get, the more interesting it becomes, because my ability to work and my understanding of what the tools I'm using is more developed now than it was when I started. And
You use many different types of equipment. Tell us about working at the crossroads between art and technology.
the technology, the tools are a means to an end, and they give me the ability to sort of take an idea and really turn it into reality. I think one of the big changes in my work, especially in the last 10, 12 years, was getting really interested in how sound lives within the physical world and physical materials and structures, and using listening instruments that are really the tools of structural engineers and scientists, not musicians or artists. And using this kind of technology combined with what I've used with the normal microphones and listening devices has really, I think, opened up a lot of possibilities to me.
You are currently working on a project at CERN, Switzerland, home to the world's largest and most powerful particle collider. What is it like to create art in a science lab?
Well, you know, CERN is a very inspiring place because of the people and the scientists you meet and the conversations you can have. One scientist that I work with very closely as a kind of conceptual partner is a theoretical physicist who's trying to figure out what was going on before the Big Bang. And he's pretty amazing. But, you know, going into the Large Hadron Collider, which currently is switched off, which is this the world's largest man-made machine. It's this 27-kilometer-long oval-shaped tunnel. And it's a very kind of inspiring environment to go into, and especially to have access to be able to make an artwork with.
What is your definition of creativity? Do you believe that arts hold the keys?
I think the key to creativity is being alive and being in touch with the uniqueness of the moment that you are alive, and to realize that every single moment is new and will never happen again. And it's really important to pay attention to your perceptions and your connections to that moment. And any artistic idea I've ever had has been based on some strong connection I was able to make with just the act of perception, listening, looking, thinking. And I think it's necessary in order to be creative to throw away all your routines and ideas of your daily life, and to kind of stop that reality and to go into another kind of mind space where you're really open to suggestions and perceptions that you never had before.